So I decided a few years ago that I would stop making work to exhibit for a while. I wanted a break from that. I wanted to just focus on the creative process in a very playful way. And I thought about it very much like being a 6-year-old again, just the sheer delight of discovery and making. So the commitment was that I would spend a minimum of 3 years working every day for a couple of hours a day, just making something without necessarily having to finish it, without it having to mean anything, just seeing where it goes. And finishing a work per day. And so when I started thinking about what materials to work with, I do chop and change with materials. I quite like to experiment with different materials. But I wanted something that was kind of portable, so if I wanted to go and sit in a coffee shop, I could do that, and I could work at home or whatever. And so I thought about it, and I thought about it because this was quite an expensive option for me. I eventually decided to buy a tablet. And I work on a program called Procreate, which is the kind of industry standard drawing program. And here's just an example of the sorts of things that can happen in Procreate. And I'll give you some examples. I'll show you some printed examples of the things that I've made. Let me actually just start with one at a time. So there's one. And all of these took a couple of hours to make. Here's another one. And you'll see that one of the things that this medium allows one to do is to really experiment with color. And that was something that I was keen to do because I just felt like I hadn't had enough experience of experimenting with color in my life. I like painting, but I find it quite, I can't remember which way is up, I think it's this way. I find painting quite messy. And what's lovely about working on the tablet, of course, is that everything stays in one place. You don't need to worry about storage. And I'll show you the last 3 works I'll show you again, but now enlarged. So when you work with a good printer, you can take a work that's quite small on the tablet, and if you've designed it with at the right scale, you can eventually make very, very big works. And that's a nice option to have. So you're working small, but you can eventually output the works at a large scale. And so these works weren't really made to be seen by others. They were made for my own delight, really. And I'm 2 years into that process now, and have started to get quite excited about some of the ideas that I might work with in order to make more refined things later. I've got very excited about indigenous plants again, particularly plants that are indigenous to exactly where each of us live. So to look around me and say, 1,000 years ago, and 1,000,000 years ago, what plants, what things would have flowered here in this sand where I live on the Cape Flats in Rondebosch? And how can I start making images and art that are about the incredible abundance of biodiversity that once existed here, but which is very much under threat today, because there's so many plants that have come from outside of the country, which are beautiful and are certainly worth growing, but not at the expense of a lot of the native plants, the local plants. So that's probably where my energy is going to be going in the future, the next couple of years at least.